What is the thing that makes you buy a console to upgrade from the previous generation? Is it a big lineup of first-party AAA games? Is it just one big game that you simply must have? Is it a really popular multiplayer game that you don't want to miss out on because you're playing it with your friends? Some people might just upgrade because they want the latest, the greatest, and the fastest. Now, some may feel that newer games or better performance, that's a requirement before they decide to finally make the leap. For me personally, it's always primarily been about getting the better performance, even if it's something like FPS boost or free updates that raise the resolution and the frame rate of the games. But it's also about getting those big first-party games that won't be landing on the older console. Well, every generation has a period of what is called cross-generation support, and this refers to games that launch on both the old as well as the new consoles. While the game may get better performance on the new or the stronger box, it is made available for both. Now, this happens for a variety of reasons. Many games are in development for too long to just abandon the old platform that cleanly, but also, if the company did a good job selling their last console, they have a lot of customers who are going to be slow to make the jump. It's an expensive purchase, they have plenty of games to play, and it can be tough to get consumers to change or upgrade. They may have just felt like they recently bought a console, and now it's time to upgrade all over again. And typically, that cross-generation support period ends a few years, or at the very least, about halfway through the console's life cycle. Well, the latest Call of Duty that's coming this year, Black Ops 6, it's not going to be asking old-gen console users to switch this year, and possibly won't be asking you to switch anytime soon. And with Call of Duty now under Microsoft ownership, the question has to be asked: what does the future of Call of Duty look like on PlayStation, where the majority of players buy and play the game? But more than that, half of the people playing Call of Duty on PlayStation are actually doing it on a PlayStation 4. And there's a lot to consider here, and opinions are ranging from surprised that they're putting the latest Call of Duty on old gen. Some are outraged, and some aren't really shocked that the next Call of Duty is going to land on the PS4. Now, every weekday here on Reforge Gaming, I tell you what I think about a gaming topic, and then we go to a live stream where I want to hear what you think. So if you want more content like this, be sure to hit subscribe. And in this video, I want to look first at what we know about Black Ops 6 details, okay? There is even some trailers and things, I think something even landing today when my video goes live. And the reaction to this from both the games media as well as the gaming public has been a bit mixed, that, hey, why aren't we leaving old gen behind? And that's, not really a question for some games, but for a game like Call of Duty, it's like, hey, it's okay that we're returning to Black Ops, but isn't it time to move on? The fact that old gen being supported is upsetting for many gamers. Secondly, I will consider the possible future scenarios with Call of Duty on PlayStation now that Xbox owns the property. How long will PlayStation want Call of Duty to land on the PS4? Does it work against their aims to sell PlayStation 5s? And what does Xbox want out of all of this? Lastly, I'll give you my thoughts and a prediction on how I think this plays out. We had a lengthy debate about this in one of my behind-the-scenes members-only streams, and there is a lot of different opinions on how long Call of Duty will be landing on old-gen consoles. But up first, what do we know about the next Call of Duty? First, one of the more exciting pieces of news for Xbox fans is that the next Call of Duty installment will be hitting Game Pass on day one. This is a welcome piece of information because the weeks leading up to the new round of Call of Duty marketing saw reports coming out that there were internal debates about whether or not Microsoft and Xbox wanted to put such a big title on Game Pass day and date. The FTC trial revealed that historically Activision Blizzard always said no to putting Call of Duty on Game Pass because the sales of the game were just too much and too high. Now that Xbox owns the property, they were facing the same dilemma. We own the game now. Do we really want to put this on Game Pass day one? Those same reports about the internal debate also indicated that a price hike may be on the way, as well as changes to the Game Pass tiers. Many have speculated, myself included, that putting Call of Duty on Game Pass will lead to changes for day and date on the lower tiers, as well as a more expensive tier. especially because Call of Duty generates so much money, they have to justify putting it on Game Pass. Because undeniably, this is a very big decision for Xbox and Microsoft. PC Gamer described it as a nuclear option, and pulling from their article about this, they claim that, quote, according to the Wall Street Journal, Microsoft will officially announce the move during its June showcase in the industry's customary, formerly E3-centered game announcement week. So it seems that Xbox and their Xbox showcase is going to make this very clear. Now, whether they do that during the Xbox showcase or the Call of Duty showcase that comes after, that remains to be seen, but in either scenario, this is big news for Xbox fans. Now, while landing on Game Pass is something that some fans are celebrating, the next bit of news, well, it received less fanfare. It became known through leaks as well as insiders who were able to verify the information that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 would be landing on old-gen consoles. Insider Gaming reported that, quote, Black Ops 6 will be on last-gen consoles, and in their article, they state the following. Information regarding Black Ops 6 has surfaced online, specifically concerning the game's pre-order status at GameStop. In an image shared online, it appears that GameStop is preparing to accept pre-orders for Black Ops 6 on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X consoles. Now, just in case you're wondering if it was like a doctored image, because around this time of year, we get a lot of fake showcase schedules and a lot of fake leaks, Insider Gaming vetted the image and they reported the following. Insider Gaming has been able to verify with multiple sources that the image is legitimate and that Black Ops 6 will be coming to past generation consoles. Now, the response to this has been a bit mixed. A lot of gamers have been quick to call foul, claiming that, listen, making games for old gen, it just continues to hold the games back. But folks like Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming were quick to point out in a tweet that 48% of PlayStation players that play Call of Duty are on the PS4. That's why past gen isn't going anywhere for COD. That's what he had to say. Now, you have to remember that half of the consumers who purchase Call of Duty do it on PlayStation, and that means the majority of those playing and purchasing COD are doing it on the PlayStation platform, and almost half of those people are still playing on the PS4. Now, none of this information is shocking if you've been following the user-based data. Steven Totillo, a games reporter for GameFile, he said the following just 2 weeks ago. Earlier this week, Sony made headlines for PS5 reaching 59 million units sold. Good number. Sony says PS5 is in the second half of its life cycle. Sony also said PlayStation has 118 million monthly active users, half still on PS4. Get that? Half of PlayStation players aren't on current gen. Now, some might see that number as bad or good, depending on which vantage point you look from. Halfway through the life cycle of the PS5, PlayStation has been able to get half of their user base to upgrade. Now, that is, if you remember, that's with the slower start that everybody had in 2020 and 2021. There were global chip shortages, the pandemic, it was hard to get these things in the hands of the public, and there was the infamous problem with scalpers. Now, another opinion on this situation is that it's time to move, and it's time to start forcing people to upgrade and get PS5s. And PlayStation seems to want that to start. They indicated in one of their own reports that by fiscal year 25, they would no longer be launching first-party games for PlayStation 4. And it was largely understood that Spider-Man 2 would be the first game to essentially turn the page and leave behind the PlayStation 4 for good with respect to first-party games. But Call of Duty is likely viewed in a very different category. We know from the FTC and other regulatory investigations into the Xbox Activision deal that Call of Duty generates a lot of revenue for PlayStation. It would be very risky to push a lot of the PS4 users into a position where they have to buy a PS5 in order to play Call of Duty, especially considering how difficult it's been in some places to actually buy a PS5 up until very recently. But all of this has myself and many others asking the question, what does the future of Call of Duty on PlayStation look like? There are a variety of ways that this ends up playing out both for Call of Duty, for PlayStation, and Xbox as the property owner. One possibility is that all parties involved see a great reason to put Call of Duty on PS4 as long as there is a large player population still playing there. past generation Switches didn't really have a Call of Duty that was entrenched in the way that the current Call of Duty community is. There wasn't a Warzone back then, which is a hugely popular battle royale, and even if Warzone's not as popular as it once was, they have a rather ingenious way of motivating all their Warzone players to buy the Call of Duty main releases. They have this giant funnel of free-to-play players playing the Battle Royale, and they're always motivated to buy that latest release, and a huge portion of them are doing so on the PS4. Now, Xbox may look at this and think it's a wonderful source of revenue, and they don't really have a vested interest in getting people to upgrade to a PS5, and PlayStation could think along similar lines. They recently indicated that they're very satisfied with PS5 sales, and the trajectories are on pace to pass the PS4. If you have an existing active user base willingly spending money, they may not feel a strong need to get those people to upgrade to a PS5, especially if plenty of other consumers are buying the PlayStation 5s that are being made. But there is certainly a possible future where PlayStation says, listen, we don't want Call of Duty on the PS4 anymore. I was told by someone in the know that all contracts now state that game devs cannot make a game just for the PS4. It has to be made for both the PS4 and the PS5. Now, that's for third-party developers. You will still see PS4-only games for a time because the contracts are now new. Older contracts, older games that were still in development are still going to be hitting PS4 only. That does seem to indicate, though, a possible future where PlayStation has contracts that state, listen, we only want PS5 and PS5 Pro enhanced games. We don't want you making games for the PS4 anymore. PlayStation has openly shown they're doing this with their own first-party studios, as they will not be making any PS4 games any longer. Eventually, I would see them rolling this out to third-party games as well. But Call of Duty could certainly be an exception, or one of the last games allowed to continue to have that cross-gen release. It's also very likely that we won't see any more PS5 Call of Duty bundles in the future, now that Xbox and Microsoft have full control of the marketing. They definitely want to sell the game and make a lot of money off of the property on PlayStation, but I don't think they really want to help market PlayStation's hardware. At least, I wouldn't think that would be the case. Stranger things have happened. Just this year, the entire first-party strategy of Xbox has seemingly changed, and it was recently leaked that the next Doom game will be a multiplat, and more than just being a multiplat, they're going to announce it as a multiplat at the Xbox showcase, according to insiders. Even still, a Call of Duty PS5 bundle feels like something that simply won't happen anymore, with Xbox now owning the game. Regardless of how you look at it, both Xbox and PlayStation want Call of Duty revenue from the PlayStation 4 users. It's just a matter of how long they're willing to support those older versions in consoles and how quickly they want to get adoption rates and people to upgrade. So, in light of all these possibilities, what do I think is going to happen? Before I can even get into my prediction about how this shakes out, we have to remember something significant that hasn't happened yet. Xbox is committed to bringing Call of Duty to Nintendo, and the speculation and assumption has been that they will do this with the Nintendo Switch 2, which doesn't land until 2025 according to all of the reports. We also have consistently heard that the Nintendo Switch 2 will roughly have the power of a PS4 or a PS4 Pro. If Xbox is committed to bringing the game to a platform that might not even have a very large user base for Call of Duty, because there's practically no Call of Duty history with Nintendo, especially as of late, if they're willing to do that, I really can't see them skipping the PS4 anytime soon. And I can't see PlayStation being okay with Call of Duty landing on the Nintendo Switch 2 while their PS4 users are told, well, you've got to upgrade to PS5 to play the latest Call of Duty. This means, and this is my prediction, that at the very least, the next 2 years will see Call of Duty landing on old-gen consoles. Now, beyond 2025, I think that's a bit of a question mark. It may largely depend on the reception of the game on Nintendo. If Call of Duty explodes on Nintendo, you may see a different strategy from Microsoft going forward about Call of Duty. They're going to be willing to make it for those weaker systems. And we might also have to see just how many active COD customers are still playing and spending money on the PS4 at the end of 2025. I can't help but think that Microsoft is going to want to treat Call of Duty like Minecraft. Just ensure it's playable on every platform, no matter how old, and really get the maximum player count so you can maximize how much money the game makes for you. Now, the pushback I received yesterday when I discussed this with my members was that, listen, PlayStation's just eventually going to want these people to switch. They don't want them stuck on the PS4. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I just think that if PlayStation is happy with the sales of the PS5 and the PS5 Pro is on the way, they will continue to see their own property as the main driver for PS5 console sales. And there is also the giant elephant in the room that may inadvertently help them sell both PS5s as well as PS5 Pros, and that's GTA 6. There is a very real possibility that PlayStation will feel no pressure over the next 2 years to get Call of Duty players to move, as they're going to get enough natural migration without forcing anybody to make the jump. Big first-party titles like Wolverine or even a Ghost of Tsushima 2, that's likely going to help people move, but Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to cast a wide net. It'll likely help get a good portion of the Call of Duty crowd stuck on the PS4 to finally take the plunge and upgrade their console. No matter how you shake it, getting 60 million people to upgrade to a new console can be a delicate process, and the Call of Duty fan base is large, and at some level, they're in charge, especially where the game lands if they're sort of reticent to upgrade. But if you're just too forceful or too quick with getting people to switch, you may end up losing players, and you could turn them away. You could frustrate them. If you never apply any pressure, however, to upgrade, a large portion of consumers would happily live in old gen with games like Call of Duty or Fortnite until you absolutely force their hand. But those are just my thoughts. Now it's time to hear your thoughts, and you can do that in a comment below, or you can come to the live stream that follows this video. It should pop up as a card here. It'll also be in a pinned comment below. And if you like this video and you want more like it, please remember to like, share, and subscribe.